Good morning. It's now about 6:30 in the morning, June 23rd, 2020, in Casper, Wyoming. It's a beautiful, wonderful morning. Um, and today the talk is going to be about what we call states. And this concept of states is it's a state of mind. It's where your mind is at and where you're at. So to give you an example, I'm going to talk a little bit about um, the different states that throughout life that we're in. So when we're born, we're in the baby state. We're a little baby, kind of helpless. All we can do is cry. We learn our communication through our whining and crying, and we find out we can get things by grunting and stuff. And then as we go into a toddler state, and we can grunt, and then we begin to talk, and then we get into the 5 to 7 year old, where it's the state of discovery. So we're discovering everything, and that's the state we're in. Then we get into the awkward puberty and teenage years, where we're in a state of our feet are don't fit our bodies, and hair is growing where we never had it before, and so we're in a state of confusion a little bit in that state. Then we get into the teenage state, and a little bit of sometimes into the rebellion state and things like that. And then we get into a little bit uh, the schooling state, and then we go through our job state, and the kind of the middle year state, and then finally we get into the old state and the wisdom state, I call it. We get a little bit older and we get wisdom, and and then and but so these are some of the lifetimes of the states that we're in. But we're also there are also other states that we can get ourselves into. And in my life, I've had to fight this in some ways, is the feeling sorry for myself state. Why me state? Why did this bad stuff have to happen to me? I'm just going along. I didn't feel that I did anything wrong, and yet all these things are happening to me. So I got into what we call a feel sorry for me state, and that was a state that was very unproductive. I mean, it's when you're in this feeling sorry for my state, it's like an opposite of being grateful. So the work is to keep yourself into the grateful state when you are into the feel sorry for me state. And when you stay grateful, um, even when bad things, I had an accident where I fell out of a forklift, and I crushed my left leg, and had to have two surgeries, and it actually put me out of work. I was in bedridden for about three to 4 months before I could even come back to work. I did some office work out of the house at that time, but it was it when things like that happen in life, it takes more work to not go into a state of feeling sorry for yourself, and always trying to see the state of, I would call it a positivity state. Keeping your mind a positive mental attitude. Keeping your mind on a state of um, you know that happening to me had I go back in time and look at that, and I wouldn't change it, because the way the trajectory of my life happened after that. If it wasn't for that, it's hard to say what would have went wrong in my life at that point. And a lot of things went right, even though at the time that started the leg got broke, and then my marriage started to crumble and end. My relationship with my kids were in trouble, and then my it went on and on. The dogs died, and the IRS got audited me, and it was just a one. I mean, it was like, up to that point we were like on. It felt like I was on top of the mountain, and then I just came all the way down to the depths of despair. And and so I was in a state of chaos in some ways. And so to keep, but to realize that when I'm in that state, I don't have to stay there, or I can choose to look at that. I was able to choose to look at that and say, I mean, I'm human too. I mean, I did stay in those states for a while, but you can change your state. I was able to look at that and say, you know what, there's I guess it's that looking for the silver lining in the clouds. So in other words, or looking for that one little tiny place of blue sky in a totally cloudy day, and focusing on that, and keeping my mind on what I wanted, off what I didn't want, and just saw the opportunity. I mean, there's an opportunity. There's a in every adversity is a seed for a greater achievement. Or in other words, anything bad that happens, you can change it around, and you can take it and you can turn it into a benefit. So that's the state that I chose to be in at that point. Not all the time, but for the most part, I always chose to look at the positive. And when it's tough when really hard things are happening. Going through an accident or surgeries and stuff is hard, but that's not hard in comparison to going through a marriage ending and divorce happening. And so I want to tell you and encourage you that you can go through, you can get through about anything. And I look back on that and it's like, wow, I'm so much stronger today. Even the IRS audit, which in my mind was one of the worst things that could happen, because all the stories I'd heard, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And I was able to get through that, and still keep a smile on my face. And yeah, it did cost some money. I ended up, I lost my house, and a fire happened on my mountain, and my mountain house was lost with no insurance. And it just goes on and on. The dogs died, and I mean, it seemed like it was one thing after another. Business took a real downturn, and we did about half the business the following years after the marriage ended. And it just seemed like I had all kinds of opportunities to feel sorry for myself and to blame others. And one of the neat things is not being in a state of blaming others, being in a state of, I am responsible for my life, and I am responsible, and I needed to take that sense of responsibility and give it and own it, and be in a state of ownership and honesty, being truthful and honest with myself. It's one thing to be honest and truthful with somebody else, but sometimes we lie to ourselves and we'll tell the truth to everyone else. And then some people just lie to themselves and lie to everybody else, and their whole life seems to be all of, they're incapable of being honest with themselves, and therefore they're not honest with anyone else as well. And I'm sure some people like that. But when things are happening, and you say, that I am responsible for the accident in my life, I'm responsible, I have a part in my marriage crumbling, I am responsible. I am responsible for the bad financial decisions that I made, and put me in this state of great need. And but I'm also responsible for turning it around. It gives you some power. It gives you some energy. It's like, you can get excited. When I went door to door selling, mainly because the door to door selling had to do with I was trying to figure out a way to learn how to communicate. I was always inverted, and I was kind of afraid to talk to people, and great fear of speaking and things like that. And I was kind of like a person that wasn't inwardly all the time. And so I heard about door to door selling, and how and to me that seemed like, oh man, that's so much fear. And so I asked all the friends and relatives about it, and they all said, you are absolutely crazy. That is the dumbest idea you've ever had. You don't even have a job. What are you thinking? Door to door selling, that is just crazy. Knocking on people's doors you don't even know. and you know what people are going to yell at you. They're going to slam the doors in your face, and it's going to be nothing but good that can come out of it. So I did a lot of thinking about all what people had said, and you know, one of the things is that I was in a state of, I own my own. I don't let people's opinions direct my life. I'm in a state of, I'm going to make my own decisions. And I thought about that. And then one of the trainings I had early on in my younger days was that the crowd is wrong. You know, what everybody else is doing, if the river's going down one side, you need to do the exact opposite. And I thought a lot about that. And I thought, you know what, this is a good thing. I'm going to learn some stuff from this. And yeah, it might be hard, but I'm going to learn from it. And everybody thought it was crazy. So that's exactly what I did. And I did door-to-door selling for about a year. And, you know, one of the things I learned is that it's not as bad as you think. You know, it was a state. I learned more from doing that than books that I had read. You know, I learned, yeah, some people did, you know, it's going to happen. Some people, the worst that I could think of that would happen is somebody would, you know, maybe pull out a gun and shoot me. And I thought, wow, the odds of that are pretty slim. You know, or the worst, you know, the next worst thing is they'll just, you know, cuss at me and slam the door in my face. And I thought, you know what, I think I can handle that. And again, with a positive mental attitude, I went out and, you know, I did have people slam doors in my face. And I had people tell me, you know, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing this door-to-door stuff for? You know, I was selling paperweights at the time, and they're like, what are you doing that kind of stuff? I mean, get a real job. You know, I had a lot of people tell me that. And I just, you know, I developed I thought, that's your opinion. You know, just because you're twice my age and you look like you know what you're talking about doesn't mean that I have to agree or agree with that. And I was able, you know, probably the biggest part of doing all that was to realize that I am in control of my own thoughts, and I get to think my own thoughts. I don't have to let the neighbors, other people, friendships, acquaintances do my thinking for me. I can think for myself. And I didn't choose. I chose. You know, just that's your opinion. I don't believe that. I'm getting a benefit out of this, and so I didn't believe all that. And so anyway, so I had a state. So we can create our own states, and you could be in a state of a positive mental attitude. And man, when you're there, you know, doors open. You know, life is good no matter what happens. You know, you can have a smile on your face because you're always thinking, you know what, no matter how bad things are, there's always that silver lining. There's something of benefit or something good that can come out of that. And so much good came out of going door to door. I'm so glad I made that decision to do that. I'm not saying you should do that. You know, in today's world, when I first started my business, we clean chimneys, and I had a dirty chimney is like having a bomb inside your house. I mean, if the stuff catches fire, it can actually explode and it can burn your house down. So I made an ad that said you could be sitting on a bomb. And then if nobody was home, I would tape that to the door. You know, in today's world, that would, you know, I don't recommend you do something like that. But I was just trying anything back then. And I remember one time I knocked on a door and I knew somebody was there. I could hear them. I could hear these. I carried my door to door into my next business after I was selling the paperweights, and so I was doing chimney cleaning, and I knew somebody was there. I could hear the TV on. I could hear walking, and I'd knock and knock. Nobody came, and I thought, okay, well, maybe they're deaf or something. So I had all these flyers that said you could be sitting on a bomb on a piece of tape, you know, and I pull the tape off and I stick it on the door and I go to the next house. Well, so the babysitter, she's probably 13 years old. Maybe it's her first time babysitting. She opens the door after she knew I was gone, and I didn't know it was the babysitter there. And she pulls that piece of paper off, and all she reads is you could be sitting on a bomb. And then after that, it said, you know, dirty chimneys like sitting on a bomb, and you know, have your chimney cleaned. Here's a coupon. I mean, it was like that. And all she read was you could be sitting on a bomb. So the mom and dad of the kids were out to dinner, and she called the restaurant. We didn't have cell phones at that time, so she got on the phone, called the restaurant that they were at, and said, somebody left a note saying you could be sitting on a bomb. They're like, oh, and they come, you know, their night out was all ruined, and they come and I get a phone call later that evening from you should have never done that, and sitting on a bomb. And I mean, it was just like, well, did you read it? Yeah, but it was just it was a big mess. But anyway, it's kind of a funny story. But yeah, that actually did happen. And I mean, that was just, she was in a state of panic. The babysitter was in a state of I gotta do this, and she just didn't, she did a state of immaturity, you might say. But that was a funny story. But those are the kind of things that happen, and I actually did adjust. I decided, that's probably not the best thing. Just that some people just don't read on, and that created a big mess. And it nothing. I might have even cleaned their chimney a few years later. I don't think they had me clean it that year because they were kind of upset that I ruined their night out with each other. But this is funny. I want to be in a state of joy, of happiness and joy. And it's the way you look at things, I mean, when I was going door to door, I was like, man, I told myself, this is the greatest thing I could ever do. I'm outside, I get to the sunshine and even the wind and sometimes the snow and rain, but I get to do this. I get to talk to some wonderful, I mean, on the flip side, there's some wonderful people out there. There's people that are just incredible, amazing people, and some people slam the door in your face, and I always said a prayer for them because I never took it personally. Don't take things personally. Just because somebody is rude or mean to you, you don't know what they're going through. If you get bad service at a restaurant, you just don't assume that they're just a bad worker and they don't care about their job. I mean, there's probably something else. There's always everybody has a story. So give people grace and forgive them, and man, your life will be full of joy. And try to help people. When somebody's really rude and mean to you, stop and just take a second and say, is everything okay? Or are you doing okay? I mean, just get on a personal level with them. Give them a little bit of your time, and don't be scared and don't have fear. Just because somebody looks. I'm on TV a lot, and I have people that I can tell they're just afraid to approach me, and I'm just a regular person. I mean, if they just come up and talk to me, I'm not gonna bite them. And I have other people that are just in like awe. They're like, oh, they come and want my signature, and it's like, are you kidding? I'm on commercials. I'm basically just a regular person. I'm not anybody special. I just do things. I do things in a different way. I make sure that I don't miss stuff. I keep my state of mind in a positive mental attitude, and that's completely up to you. You can decide to do that. So I want to just encourage you today that you can take your state, and we all have states all through our lives, but you can take your state and you can change it. You don't have to be stuck. A lot of times we get in a rut and we just sit there and we think, what, this will never change. And the neat thing about life is it can. Sometimes it just, maybe you're the one that needs to change. Change your perspective. Change the way you're looking at it. Sometimes it just means just moving a little bit. Move over just a little bit. Look at it from a little bit different angle. And it'll amaze you how different it can look when you can change your perspective, and that's a change, and you can change your state. So we're all in states, and I just want to encourage you today that have fun with this. Don't make it a big work. Enjoy the journey. It's life's a journey, and enjoy it. Realize that no matter what state you're in, if you don't like it, you can change it. Just look at it from a different perspective and a different point of view. So I try to keep these about 20 minutes. I hope this is an encouragement to you today, but I'm going to tell you, you can change your state, and it's exciting and it's wonderful. And use that wonderful human imagination that you have, and put a smile on your face, and I will see you again next time. I enjoyed this talk, and talk to you soon. Bye. Bye bye.